This is episode 50 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. It feels like just yesterday we uploaded our very first episode covering why we're Bengals and Browns fans to begin with. But we're just chugging along here throughout the offseason. So here's to the next 50 episodes. And hopefully thousands more after that.
Thank you for watching, guys.
Yeah, it's been great. We wouldn't. I'd be doing this still if literally nobody watched, but I'd probably just be calling Thomas on the phone instead of producing entire episodes about it.
So. Pretty much. Pretty much. Just,
yeah.
Our team.
But apologies by the way for the upload frequency lately. There's been some technical issues on my end specifically that I'm hoping I've resolved by now. But I know the last 2, 3, maybe 4. I think the last 2 or 3 episodes haven't gone up either as scheduled. I think one of them didn't even go up at all. But hopefully we're getting back on track after that. So, here's episode 50, and we're mostly going to be talking about quarterbacks today because there's a little bit of discussion going on about Baker Mayfield and virtually nothing else on the planet to talk about in the football world right now. It's just complete dead ass silence. But since this is an episode about quarterbacks, probably not going to be talking much about the Steelers today. Because why, Thomas?
Well, Ben Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, and Dwayne Haskins all suck.
Yeah.
You suck, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Because the Steelers still suck. That's why.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
So, are you drinking anything today, Thomas?
No, I gotta work in a little bit. We do not drink and work. I am drinking water.
This is probably going to be a shorter episode, partially because there's basically nothing to talk about, partially because Thomas got to get going in about 20 minutes.
I also have a Chips Ahoy chewy cookie.
Oh, there you go. Me, I am drinking cranberry juice because it is delicious. Good for you. And I can't drink alcohol right now because, I'm at work. And, hopefully the recording schedule will be getting better here soon, though. But, for now, this is what it is. So, we're doing what we got to do. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this podcast, Thomas. The Browns. You said, I didn't particularly see this when I watched the video, but you said that Max Kellerman called Baker Mayfield assistant quarterback. Is that what he said?
I believe so. I'm sorry, I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure somebody said that that Baker Mayfield is assistant quarterback. The reason why this conversation started because on Get Up they were talking about the 5 most complete teams in the NFL. And NFL.com actually had the Browns ranked number 1 as the most complete roster in the NFL, which is amazing because they're the Browns. Something you couldn't be able to even think about in 20 years. The Browns have one of the most complete rosters in the NFL. That's not something that we heard in a very long time. But with that said, on the show, what was said was Mayfield is a very replaceable quarterback, and he's what, number 5 at best. What I think he said.
Yeah, they essentially that was part of Max Kellerman's argument. We'll get to the system quarterback thing here in a second because I think that's a little ridiculous. But as far as the top 5 at best, like they said, Max Kellerman said he is at best the 5th best quarterback in the AFC, which I think that's a little. I mean, that's not like the stupidest thing I've ever heard or anything like that, right? Like, I mean, he could be the 5th best quarterback in the AFC. I'm not saying that's a bad, horrible ranking for him, but at best, I don't know about that. I think at best he's the 3rd best quarterback in the AFC, right? Doesn't mean he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. He's not better than Josh Allen. I think he's had a similar career arc to Josh Allen, but Josh Allen has displayed, I think, more high-end play than Baker Mayfield has. So I think those two, there's really no argument for. But those are the only two. So I think at best, Baker Mayfield is the third best quarterback in the AFC. So I mean, like who are the other quarterbacks you could really say here? You got, Justin Herbert, who we have a low sample size for, Joe Burrow, who we have an even lower sample size for, Deshaun Watson, who we don't even know if he's going to be playing this season, pending both legal situation and a trade situation, Lamar Jackson, who is arguably more inconsistent than Baker Mayfield, and maybe Ryan Tannehill, but he's also been super inconsistent through his career. So, I mean, who among those players is definitely better than Baker Mayfield? I don't know if any of them are. I think Joe Burrow will prove to be eventually, but you can't say he is right now.
I mean, Joe Burrow. I mean, yeah, I think Joe Burrow might have a higher ceiling than Baker Mayfield immediately. But that that's yet to be seen. That could go either way. They're still very young. The whole thing is that the whole idea is that I mean, like, why are we even having this conversation? Why can't we? Or I like this conversation actually, but I feel like it got into the point where you can't compliment the Browns without insulting Baker Mayfield. Like, the Browns are so good. That is not Baker Mayfield's doing. It's because of all the people around. Like, just admit that he's doing his thing, man. Just admit that he's doing, like, he won his first playoff. He won his very first playoff game he ever played. Not a lot of quarterbacks say that. I mean, Blake Bortles could say that, obviously, but not
Lamar
a lot
Jackson
of quarterbacks
definitely can't say that.
Lamar Jackson can't say that. And he played a significant part. He had a good game. He threw 3 touchdowns his first playoff game. He had a really good playoff game.
Right.
He had a really good playoff game. And I think this whole thing with comparing him to Kirk Cousins because he's being coached by Kevin Stefanski is ridiculous.
Right. By the way, just as a correction, I said earlier Max Kellerman called him the 5th best quarterback in the AFC. I think it might have been like on Max Kellerman's show, but the person who actually made those comments was Mike Tannenbaum. He's kind of a media guy, former Dolphins and Jets general manager who was awful in both places. So just like, what do you know about anything, honestly? But then again, I guess he was right about Justin Herbert. I called him crazy for his comments about Justin Herbert, and I guess so far he seems like he's right. But here is my thoughts about Baker Mayfield being a system quarterback. I mean, okay, so I guess the argument there is that he had a sophomore slump under Freddie Kitchens' offense, and as a result, he only has really one season of like really proving himself as a quality starting quarterback. Yeah, I mean, you can't really count the rookie season. Like, he had a really good rookie season, but that was a rookie season. And I mean, honestly, he wasn't nearly as consistently great as he really was throughout most of 2020. So that's the argument, I think, for him being a system quarterback. It's like he's done great with Kevin Stefanski, but he was bad before that. But here's the thing, he wasn't bad before that. Like, he struggled with Freddie Kitchens. I still think he did okay with Freddie Kitchens. He did better than I think some other quarterbacks would do with Freddie Kitchens. I think he did fine. He still threw more touchdowns and interceptions. But, I mean, he had an extremely impressive rookie season under historically bad head coach Hugh Jackson. Again, not just historically bad Browns head coach. Like, he was a bad head coach for the Raiders too. They fired him after a year. So he had Hugh Jackson as his head coach, and he had that rookie season. And before that, he played extremely well in college under Lincoln Riley and Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. Ended up the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So how are you going to tell me this dude's a system quarterback when 4 out of the 5 systems he's been in? 3 out of the 4 systems he's been in, he's thrived in.
I don't call him a system quarterback when he's been out of 4 systems in 3 years.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, you can't like some people call Tom Brady a system quarterback because he had such a great career, but he spent most of his career in one system. And it's like the thought process, like, would he still be Tom Brady if he was in a different system, or if he had gone to another team where he didn't have, the miracle circumstances like he had in New England, like with Drew Bledsoe getting hurt and all that, which is kind of a dumb, stupid argument in the first place. But like for Baker Mayfield, it's not even comparable because he's been in so many different systems. He didn't have the stability that Tom Brady had in New England.
I just like to say, Baker Mayfield have already had more head coaches than Tom Brady.
Right. And Tom Brady switched teams.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me repeat that. Let me change that up. Baker Mayfield have had twice as many head coaches as Tom Brady.
Well, that's true if you're counting college.
No, Tom Brady, how many coaches have Tom Brady had? 2?
Tom Brady's had 2 head coaches, Bill Belichick and Bruce Arians. Baker Mayfield is yeah, I guess it's more than twice.
Greg Williams, Hugh Jackson,
Freddie Kitchens, Hugh Jackson, Kevin Stefanski, and then if you're counting college, Tom Brady had 3 head coaches because he had whoever was the head coach at Michigan at the time. And then, in addition to the 3 NFL head coaches Baker Mayfield's had, he's had Bob Stoops, and he's had Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech, I believe. I think Cliff Kingsbury was the coach back then, right?
Yeah.
So that's not quite twice the number, but I mean it's still almost twice the number of systems that Baker Mayfield's been in than what Tom Brady's been in. So I mean, like first of all, I think Tom Brady has shed the whole idea of being a system quarterback since he went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl immediately. I think calling him a system quarterback is ridiculous. But if that's going to be the standard for being a system quarterback, Baker Mayfield doesn't even come close to fitting that standard. And it's like if it had been the case that he's only been good in one system, then fair enough. But he was really good in college. Like, let's not forget that. He was a number 1 overall draft pick.
What exactly?
And then he came out. He had a really good rookie season, trailed off a little bit in the sophomore season, came back and had a great junior season. So I mean, like, I really don't get the argument here.
What would you consider a system quarterback, or who would you consider a system quarterback? Is the question.
At this point, a system quarterback, maybe Andy Dalton, because he did really well in the Bengals system, but he's ever since that old like system, like I mean, sort of. He had a couple different a couple different offensive coordinators, but it was pretty consistent kind of system that was happening. And once that system kind of fell apart, his like performance kind of fell apart, and he didn't look like the same Andy Dalton that we saw back in 2015 with the Cowboys. And it doesn't sound like he's it doesn't sound like he's exactly blowing the doors off the wall in Chicago so far. So I think Andy Dalton is a system quarterback. By the way, there's nothing wrong with being a system quarterback. I want to point that out. It's okay to be a system quarterback. I
mean, I just think that this is just like calling somebody a system quarterback is one of those things in sports where we say something to devalue somebody's achievement. Because honestly, hot take, if I consider any good quarterback in the NFL system quarterback, I consider Ryan Tannehill a system quarterback. Because Ryan Tannehill was not good in Miami.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill, that was actually because I mentioned him as one of the AFC quarterbacks. You could maybe make the arguments better than Baker Mayfield. But the reason that I'd say that's a maybe and not a definitely is because Ryan Tannehill's only really been good in one system so far. Other than that, I mean, he wasn't a bust in Miami, but he wasn't that great.
Exactly.
And he had some pretty serious struggles. They ended up deciding to move on from him. And maybe you could consider that being a bust because he didn't make it to a second contract. Well, no, he did make it to a second.
Well, I mean, like, but then again, at the same time, the dude does what he needs to do. So I can't hate him. I can't. I mean, like, I don't know. As far as the argument of and I'm looking at this list for top 5 at best quarterback in the AFC. You know what? Low, I'm looking at this list of quarterbacks in the AFC. So, like you said, you would put Patrick Mahomes.
Obviously, number 1. And personally, I think Josh Allen is obviously number 2.
I think Josh Allen proved more than Baker Mayfield. I will agree with that. I'm not too big of a fanboy for this argument. Just say that Josh Allen. I'm looking at Deshaun Watson, man. I would not take Baker Mayfield over Deshaun Watson. Not right now.
I would right now. I would absolutely take Baker Mayfield over Deshaun Watson right now.
Because of reasons we're not going to talk about on this podcast, but
no, that's my whole point. He might not count as a quarterback in 2021. You have to take that into consideration.
Right. Okay, so let's eliminate him from the argument then. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so definitely not putting Sam Darnold over him. Definitely not putting
Sam Darnold's in the NFC now.
Oh yeah, that's true. Definitely not putting Carson Wentz over him. Definitely not putting Ben Roethlisberger over him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got an interesting quarterback in this argument.
Yeah.
Okay, so the quarterback that I'm thinking of is Lamar Jackson.
What about him?
Well, I mean, like, what about him? Where does he rank on? Where would you put Lamar Jackson on best quarterback?
I would put Lamar Jackson, like I said, as far as proven talent, or not proven talent, as far as being proven to be a great NFL quarterback goes, I would put him immediately under Baker Mayfield.
Okay, question. Who would you rather have quarterback in your team? Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson?
Who would if we're talking about for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years. Or honestly, starting next season, you have them both on 5-year contracts. So starting next season,
I would rather have Joe Burrow for a long-term build. As far as just next season goes, I think Lamar Jackson's obviously the safer bet, but I think Joe Burrow's upside is higher than Lamar Jackson's.
Honestly, I'll take Joe Burrow next season over Lamar Jackson next season.
I think he could. I absolutely think Joe Burrow could do better than Lamar Jackson this year. But like I said, if I'm putting my money on it, if I'm I think the safest bet right now is Lamar Jackson. But I think that Baker Mayfield is a safer bet than either of them right now.
All right. So So you say long term, right? Long term, Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert?
No, that's a tough one. I still am not completely sold that Justin Herbert's for real. He had a great rookie season. I'll grant it. He had a great rookie season. Let's see if he can be consistent with that in his career. That said, I'm not sure if I buy Lamar Jackson long term. So I don't know. I think I'd have to still go with Lamar Jackson, but it's close.
So all right, and then I have one more question. Where does Derek Carr rank in this argument?
Like as far as quarterbacks in the AFC is concerned?
Where would we rank Derek Carr? Like, will we rank him above Lamar Jackson or below Lamar Jackson? I think Lamar Jackson
definitely below Lamar. Derek Carr is the dead center middle. He's like where Andy Dalton used to be.
I don't think Derek Carr is a bad quarterback. I
don't think he's a bad quarterback either. I just don't think he's a good quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you can do better, but you can do worse, type thing. I think the whole thing about Lamar Jackson, I'm not convinced. The whole Justin Herbert thing versus Lamar Jackson thing, I'll probably go with Lamar Jackson over Justin Herbert too. Only because of this. Like you said, you're not completely sold that Justin Herbert's going to be the real deal. I'm not honestly completely sold that Lamar Jackson is going to fall off the cliff. Like, there's a chance. Lamar Jackson's a very hard worker, though. That's one thing I have to give him credit for. He really works hard on his craft and his work, and he studies hard, and he knows the game well. So Lamar Jackson could possibly, maybe he might learn he could be practicing his throwing ability, and maybe he could transform his game into a more passing game. Maybe he can. I'm not saying it's not out of that possibility. He has a good arm. He has a good arm. It's the accuracy and the consistency and the footwork. I mean, he might be doing that stuff.
Right, but anyway, I'd love to talk more about this, but we only got about 5 minutes left, right. Which is rather unfortunate. But just to kind of wrap it up, we pretty much talked about everything I kind of wanted to talk about, because I wanted to talk about basically the other division quarterbacks and what's going on there. Obviously, I think Joe Burrow long term could be better than Baker Mayfield. But to say that he definitely is right now, you don't know anything about Joe Burrow. You don't know how he's going to come back from his injury. I mean, you imagine he's going to be fine. Which, by the way, shout out to Joe Burrow. He made a post on Instagram, said, "See you in September," like just as confident as could possibly be. And I just want to point out that people thought I was crazy when I said that Joe Burrow was going to be ready by week 1. I said that like a couple of weeks after his injury. I was like, I think he's going to be ready week 1 of the regular season. Anymore, I actually think he could be like, I don't think they'll play him in the preseason, but I think he could play at the beginning of the preseason. But it sounds like he is as confident as you could be that he's going to play in week 1 of the regular season. Why did I think that he would definitely make it that long ago? Just look at this guy's mindset. And this is why I think he has the potential to be better than Baker Mayfield, because he's just got the mindset to be, I think, the best quarterback in the NFL. He might be the best of all time if all the cards fall right. You know, I think he could end up. I doubt he'll end up dethroning Tom Brady, like in a lot of people's minds, because there's no way in hell the Bengals end up winning that many Super Bowls, because we're just not run very well. But I think he could enter that conversation in the same way that like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees have. I mean, you know, if Carson Palmer was able to make it back by week 1 of the regular season 15 years ago with less recovery time, then why on earth wasn't Joe Burrow able to do it? That's part of why I think he could play in the preseason, because I mean, shit, Carson Palmer made it back by week 1 with less, like, and he got hurt in the playoffs.
Joe Burrow is going to win MVP within the next 2 years, next 3 years.
I absolutely think he's got, you know, not just that potential, but I think that's actually likely. But anyway,
you got the weapons. He had the weapons now.
Yeah.
All you missing is just a good offensive line. But let's be real. How many teams in the NFL really do have a good offensive line? Like I don't know,
but I think the Bengals are rebuilding their offensive line, possibly in a way that is really where you need to be right now. I mean, are they going to have an elite offensive line in 2021? No, but I think they very well might have a good enough offensive line in 2021.
Exactly. So Joe Burrow's going to have a great season next year. Joe Burrow's going to have he's going to take a step forward. You know, I mean, sometimes injuries. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a leg injury. Leg injuries are big. With sports medicine now, is better than it's ever been, and it keep on improving. Sports medicine, if you want to know if we're in the future or not, we're in the future because of our doctors and our medical staff that we have in the world today is just on a whole nother level, especially after the pandemic. And like with the training staff and all that stuff, Joe Burrow's gonna be ready week 1. But not only that, he's gonna be stronger than ever. He's gonna be ready. I know that man's gonna be ready. I know for a fact that man's gonna be ready. That man's gonna happen.
I fully believe it. As far as the other quarterbacks in the division, we talked about Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson is fine, but I also think Lamar Jackson could be considered a system quarterback because his performance seems to kind of ebb and flow with how effective Greg Roman's offensive strategy is on any particular given week. Look at Lamar's 2019 season when he won the MVP in Greg Roman's first season, and then once the league kind of figured out how that offense worked, Lamar Jackson threw for 10 less touchdowns, 3 more interceptions, and barely cracked the 1,000-yard mark as a rusher.
He's literally the definition of a system quarterback. Because the thing is that if you put Lamar Jackson on another team that's built differently, well, just put Lamar Jackson on the Packers.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
And then there's the Steelers. I think it goes without saying that their quarterback situation is a fucking mess. Ben Roethlisberger was once a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but at this point, I think he might be a bottom 5 starter in the NFL. Steelers would probably be better off moving on from him as soon as possible, except for the fact that Mason Rudolph might be worse. So,
is he though?
Is he? Like right now? It's probably
I
about
really
the
don't
same,
think-
honestly.
I don't think Mason Rudolph's that bad. I mean, like maybe I'm just like, but I feel like I'm the crazy man on it. I don't I'm not. Again, I really don't like Mason Rudolph, but I don't know, man.
But he had one game and he had one good, meaningless like outing against the Browns. It doesn't make him a good quarterback.
College though, that's the whole thing though. He really wasn't that bad in college. Like I actually liked him in college. Like he was pretty good at Oklahoma State University.
Well, you know what? Ryan Finley was okay in college too.
I mean, it was over Brandon Whedon.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, yeah, he went in like he didn't go in the first or second round for a reason. You know, there's question marks about that guy, and I think those question marks have shown to be the case that he's just not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Is he a fine backup quarterback? Yeah, I guess he seems to be a fine backup quarterback, but I do not think Mason Rudolph is ready to lead the Steelers. I just don't think that he's ready for that. I don't know if he'll ever be ready for that.
We'll see, man. I mean, like, you know, he wants it though. He wants it bad enough. I can tell you that for sure.
Yep.
Definitely wants it bad enough.
But
that's all you need. I don't know,
that, guys. Yeah, I don't believe in Mason Rudolph.
Maybe I can love a good comeback story.
I don't want the Steelers to have a good comeback story, personally.
Look, here's the thing.
Love that comeback story.
Look here, maybe I'm selfish, man, because I made a video that made fun of Mason Rudolph. It was one of my most popular videos I ever made. So you know how much money that I could personally make from making fun of Mason Rudolph and he's the starting quarterback for the Steelers for years to come. And the Browns, they'll give an extra layer to the Browns-Steelers rivalry that just make it 10 times more entertaining. Because you're like, oh yeah, Mason Rudolph versus Myles Garrett, and it'll be the same thing over and over again every year with the helmet thing and stuff. And like, it'll be entertaining. Just for the entertainment. That's what they are, entertainers.
I mean, it would be entertaining. I just don't believe in Mason Rudolph. That's the thing. Like, I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's an okay quarterback, but I don't think he's a good quarterback. And you need a good quarterback to be your starter, at the very least.
Maybe he might become a system quarterback in Pittsburgh.
Do what?
Maybe he might become a system quarterback in Pittsburgh.
I think you'd have to be good in the system to be considered a system quarterback. He's not even that.
System quarterback. Question
Or
mark.
maybe you know what? Maybe Mason Rudolph is a system quarterback, and he just needs a different system. You never know.
Maybe Pittsburgh should fire Mike Tomlin and hire the Oklahoma State University coach. Who coached Oklahoma State University?
I have no idea, and I'm not looking it up. I don't care.
The funniest thing ever.
Anyway, guys, like I said, we got to cut this episode short because Thomas got to get going, and we really didn't have much to talk about this week. So, you know, we wanted to put something out there for you. So, you know, it's big episode number 50, but the actual episode itself is, you know, about 20 minutes long. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Check out episode 51 and the 10,000 episodes we record after that, hopefully.
Hopefully, that was a lot. Hopefully at least 1,050.
Yeah. You can always find me at Kyle Phelps92 on Twitter and Facebook.com/thephelps. Thomas got the social medias at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram. And he's got a YouTube page called Blowdown Page. You want to go check that out too. He's got some good videos up.
Great content.
Great content.
Oh, Mike Gundy, by the way.
Yeah.
Not that Mike Gundy. I don't think.
There's another Mike Gundy.
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week. You know, don't forget to, you know, if you have any thoughts about the episode or any future episodes, leave them down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, particularly that last one. That way you can see more of our stuff. If you want to come on an episode, hit me or Thomas up, and we're always trying to have people on when we can get our schedules right anyway. That's honestly been the reason we've only had a few guests on is mainly just because it's been really hard to schedule episodes between like 3 people. It's hard enough scheduling it just between the 2 of us, which is why you're getting a 20-minute episode this week. But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll catch you next week. I'll leave you with a hoo day.
Go Browns.